This is so exciting. We're here again on Crowdcast, recording a live podcast. I'm here. I could see all your faces, and it's great to see you guys in your bunkers. So everyone's sheltering in place, and I think a lot of people listening to this probably are as well. For today's podcast, I thought it would be good to maybe talk about some of the bright stories where we're seeing people innovating in the food system to help out on the front lines or just help people who are struggling through this COVID crisis. And I think the first story we have is the Great American Takeout, part 2. And Jen, you wrote about this. Tell us a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's part 2. Part 1 was last week. And it's basically it's an ad agency from Los Angeles got together with a bunch of different restaurant brands, and they're promoting just getting takeout from restaurants. I mean, I think delivery counts a little bit, but the emphasis is on takeout. And you just go to your favorite restaurant, order a meal for takeout, take a picture of it, hashtag the Great American Takeout. I think it's Great American Takeout 2 today. And put it up on your social media, which is fun. Myself and my family will be doing that later. But it's also a way to just generate, the heart of it is generating awareness that restaurants are open for takeout. And if one is able to, going out and supporting their business by getting a drive-through or takeout meal is something that restaurants really, really, really need right now. And I would say the other benefit of takeout that I just want to plug here is that it costs restaurants a lot less to fulfill a takeout order than it does paying a big commission fee to a third-party delivery platform. Takeout also lets you tip the people in the kitchen making the food. So there's a lot of really good things. And you get awesome food from your favorite restaurant. I'll be eating from Cracker Barrel later. Yes.
Whoa. Let's not just sail on past that. What is that? A bunch of hard candies and cheese and salami? What is that?
Yeah, what is Cracker Barrel?
What that is?
You guys don't know Cracker Barrel?
I know what Cracker Barrel is, but isn't that just I remember getting the sampler when I was a kid when we lived on the East Coast, and it was always cheese and things wrapped in cellophane and meats and stuff.
There's pot roast.
Barrel.
It's just Southern. There's
comfort food.
Yeah,
it's meat and 3, chicken and dumplings, fried okra.
Mac and cheese is a vegetable.
Basically, anything that's bad for you but tastes amazing is there.
Okay, fair enough.
I've already done it for the day.
Yeah,
Your takeout.
Some coffee.
Oh, that's from Cracker Barrel.
No, this is from my local hipster coffee shop. Because also, I support this, want to get takeout as much as possible. But walking to WeWork today, I knew I wanted to get a cup of coffee, and I passed probably 8 or 10 coffee shops where normally I've stopped in the past that weren't open before I finally found this one. So it's also just can be a little bit tricky to actually find places sometimes. And the online hours are not always correct. It's tricky without an all-in-one resource about what's open, what's not, what their new hours are, what their limited menus are, etc.
Can I ask people, so we've been trying to eat, we try to order from restaurants, we do get delivery, but we are adjusting we try to do it twice a week to help support local restaurants in our little town. But we also find we're not ordering like we normally would. The question I asked last night was, are we ordering to eat or are we ordering to support? And the answer is always to support. So we're just throwing in sure, let's get some gyoza and we'll order 2, you know what I mean? And thankfully we can afford it, but it's it's no longer it's not like a regular order. We're just jamming it full to try and make that one count. So it's costing a lot, but it's every little bit, I guess, that helps. I don't know if you guys are doing that as well, when you order.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I shouldn't say this on a podcast. I don't particularly I've never liked food delivery unless it was pizza or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I'm doing the same thing, Chris. I'm trying to order a couple times a week, probably more takeout now actually than delivery, but just kind of saying, what does everybody want? Let's make the biggest order we possibly can and I think a lot of restaurants are actually getting hip to that because I'm getting a lot of messages from people saying, "Oh, we're doing these big family style menu." Cracker Barrel is doing a family style menu.
Are they paying you?
Yeah. Are you in Cracker Barrel's pocket?
Well, I'd also seen like people trying to organize neighborhood meals, right? Like you can't eat together, but if you can get a bunch of your neighbors together who are in the same building or like on the same block, so you can bundle together a bunch of orders and get it in early enough, then that's really helpful. That could be helpful. Another way to help as well.
One of the things I'm wondering about is how long-term and sustainable this is of supporting your local restaurant as we get to 3 months into this. April 1st marks the first period where a lot of them won't get a paycheck. Mm-hmm. I was talking to Robert Egger yesterday, who's a restaurant operator in San Diego, and he's like, he doesn't think this thing, people being charitable, will last. So I think it's an interesting conversation. I don't know if it's for this podcast, but I think we should continue to do that. But I'm wondering more broadly how long this ultimately lasts.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, I think more important, like, to do it while you can.
You do it while you can. That's a great point. By the way, we did a takeout last night. Tried to do it again tonight. But our local restaurant, this place called Portofino's, podcast brought to you by Portofino's. They had the contactless drive-in, and kind of so they run it out with rubber gloves on, and they put it into your window. I don't know. Has anyone else experienced that with the takeout?
Yeah, I have. Same thing at just a local place down here in Nashville. They you order ahead and they're suited up to bring you your food.
So speaking of ways in which restaurants are getting plugged into this kind of new post-COVID world or current COVID world, there's an organization called Frontline Foods, which is brought together just in the last couple of weeks. Catherine, you wrote about it. It's this organization where people can order food and actually deliver it to frontline hospital workers. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's actually a grassroots collective of a bunch of different organizations within specific cities. I think so far they have 10 cities participating, and they're always adding more. And in fact, you can sign up to run a branch if you'd like. But basically, it was founded by a couple people, and I spoke to one of them yesterday on the phone who said that basically he started a GoFundMe because he was like, restaurants are suffering because people aren't able to order from them as much. Hospital workers are looking for food because they're working extra long shifts. They don't have time to go home and cook. So why don't we bring those two together and get food from local restaurants that's healthy and filling and deliver it to hospital workers, so they're not just eating whatever they can find from vending machines or whatever. And started that in New York. I think it was only 2 weeks ago, but things are moving fast. And ended up raising over $50,000 for that. And it's called Frontier Foods is what they named sort of the umbrella organization. He saw other people doing it in other cities as well. Now they sort of have come together in this coalition that helps different cities organize. Restaurants can sign up online to become part of it. And then people, you, me, anyone can donate online. The organizers use that money to order from the restaurants, and the restaurants either deliver it to participating hospitals or one of the volunteers does. And so that's been going on for 10 days as a national organization. And then this morning they teamed up with World Central Kitchen, which is the NGO by Jose Andres, who everybody loves. He's the best. That typically will drop chefs into disaster-stricken areas like earthquakes, tsunami zones. But as the founder that I was speaking to yesterday, whose name is Wachowski, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, he said that basically there are too many disaster zones now. They can't drop chefs into every single hospital. And then there's all these different regulations. And also the new goal of the World Central Kitchen is to support restaurants. And they are trying to figure out a way to do that effectively on a national level. And so basically they're just helping Frontline Foods by giving them extra support for fundraising, helping them vet restaurants to make sure that they have the capacity to deliver and are maintaining all the right health codes and stuff like that. So it's just a nice way if you don't want to just do takeout. I think a lot of people are looking for ways to help and they don't know what to do. And this is something that you can donate to for either your own city, or you can just make a nationwide donation and the organizers will allocate your funds wherever it's most needed. A nice way to help feed people who are literally putting themselves on the front lines and also support local restaurants in a different way. So.
Yeah, there's so many of these initiatives. This is particularly, I think, a good one because it does support frontline medical workers. I think this will be one that I want to donate to. But yeah, I think this is a great idea.
Can I just point out on another note that we have 2 audience people watching?
Hey.
Oh, hello.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.
I thought you were going to say it was your dog or something.
No.
Chris, you're growing your hair out because you're on a no haircut, as we all are. None of us are getting haircuts.
That's right.
This is day 10. People can see.
No, this is day 13 for me.
Day 13. Past your normal haircut time, or
because you tack on the time before.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was just, it was after like in anticipation of the shelter in place and like just limiting movement. So yeah. And I'm actually chronicling it on Facebook where you can just see me slowly day after day get more and more disheveled. But yeah, well, not that it's not food, but I had to face the question was, should I just grow it out like I did in the 90s with a sweet, Marsha Brady do, or do I just shave it all off? But I don't know. That's not
grow it really out.
People,
I don't know.
That's going. I'm going to be middle-aged man.
The next survey. Should Chris grow his hair out or shave his head?
This train has already left the station. It's going long. He's hip. He's cool. He's 47 for those people who watched the.
So you're going down the let's look like an alt 90s rocker versus let's look like Jesse on Breaking Bad when he's on the run. Like you're going to go for the alt 90s rocker look is what you're saying. Yeah,
I want to be like the bassist for the Gin Blossoms. The guy that looks, kind of familiar, but not quite. And then, I'm going to wear a lot of paisley and baggy jeans and Doc Martens. And it's just going to really complete the look, I think.
Let's talk about the next story. Chris, you wrote it about Pepper, which is a New York-based startup that's actually pivoting, as a lot of companies are, to kind of deal with the new reality of post-COVID. What is Pepper doing?
Yeah, I love this story. So Pepper they launched a few months ago as a way for restaurants to sort of streamline ordering with their various suppliers. So a restaurant will get produce from one supplier, meat from another supplier, janitorial supplies from another supplier, right? But with restaurants closing down, guess who doesn't need to order from suppliers? Restaurants. So in just a matter of days, a really quick turnaround, they launched direct to consumer. So they had all these suppliers that they were in contact with, and all these suppliers are like, we have all this food, we need to get rid of it. And that's something we've actually heard before, especially in like New York. Ox Verte, the startup that pivoted from office catering to home office catering, was saying that their suppliers are like, look, people are still making food. We need to find a way to get rid of it so it doesn't go bad. And so it was the same for Pepper. And so what they did is they created now, if you're in the New York area, I think it's all the greater New York area and one part of New Jersey, you can order groceries through these restaurant suppliers. So I went and I'm obviously not in New York, but I went and looked at it, and it works just like any other website. You go through and there are 4 different suppliers you can choose from. There's like a meat and cheese provider, a produce provider, fish, and kitchen supplies like janitorial stuff. Mm-hmm. And they deliver because all these places have trucks. And so, if you order from 4 different places, you're going to get 4 different trucks. But, all these people, it's the same food that would go to a restaurant. And, I can't speak to the prices or anything because, again, I haven't been able to shop through there. But I think it's a really clever way of repurposing it. And the one thing I wonder, so if you're in New York, give it a try. Go to peppergroceries.com and let us know how the experience was. And the other thing I wonder is just like, once this is, I posited in the story was like, how much of this is the new normal, right? So is this the new normal for Pepper, right? Because who knows when restaurants are coming back. So is this just the thing they're going to be in? They said they can scale up nationwide. So it's not just New York. Their platform is ready to go for any restaurant supplier across the country. And is it the new normal for these suppliers, right? Is this a new revenue stream? Like they've had the guy from Pepper was saying that they've had to furlough a lot of delivery workers because there's nowhere to deliver to. But if they can create this sort of direct to consumer business, then, people are all, panic shopping, especially in California, from what I've heard from friends down in LA, like store shelves are empty, but this might be another way to get food to your table. And these are, it just seems like it's just beneficial for everybody. So I'm a big fan of the Pepper.
I think there's a larger point here that Chris kind of hinted at, which is like nothing is normal right now, especially when it comes to our grocery shopping. And I think just anytime things get turned as lopsided as they are right now, new norms are going to come out of it. So whether that's like people start using more regional services, like you were saying, Catherine, or just new models emerge or whatever it is. I mean, I think like I don't want to say it's, cool because it's obviously like we're kind of in a dark time. I think some interesting new ways of the grocery business could come out of all of this that replace the existing norms, because obviously, especially with grocery delivery, some of those existing norms don't work. If we're having to wait, a week and a half to get Instacart deliveries and they're not taking care of their workers the way workers need to be taken care of, that's a flaw that needs to be fixed. So what's going to come and fix that kind of?
I love the idea of these startups pivoting really quickly and being nimble to basically survive. You mentioned Oxverde. I think Pepper is another one. By the way, aren't there like 5 companies named Pepper? I get confused by all the Peppers.
Yeah.
I love that. I also love the idea of like new normals, not only in terms of what these companies' business models might be, but like just the shaping of the consumer behavior. And one of the posts I'm thinking about is just like, and we've written about this a little bit, it's like how people are cooking at home. Like, and are we birthing a new generation of people who are being more self-sufficient in the kitchen by necessity?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Will they all be copying Valerie Bertinelli's new potato chip casserole? Like maybe, who knows?
So, or ordering it from Cracker Barrel, because that sounds like something they'd have.
Cracker Barrel, serving all your family meal needs since 1927.
Jen, do you have a coupon code that the new Cracker Barrel cheese plate?
I have like 12 coupon codes. Thank you very much. And a free dessert voucher.
No, that's a really good point, Mike, because I'm seeing that even I live with 2 roommates and I like to cook a fair bit. No, I'm pretty familiar with it. But one of my roommates is like a mid-20s dude who used to just basically get takeout or eat out or eat like mac and cheese packets. And now he's been furloughed. He has all this time and he's cooking these really elaborate meals and like going through all these cookbooks that we had. He got like, he's going online and looking through stuff. And it's like, oh, people now have the time, they have the need, and we're sort of giving everyone a forced crash course into cooking. And that's good news for a lot of these new cooking support tools that we've seen, or regular ones that are not like Instagram live videos that are teaching people how to cook. And I don't know if we're going to see an uptick in these like expensive guided cooking things, like ones that require new technology, but definitely like online recipe searches and just even like bonappetit.com or watching people on the Today Show make things and saying, I want to recreate that. Like, yeah, it's definitely a time for cooking.
Yeah, I think in its own weird way, it's forcing a lot of people to learn skills that probably we should all know anyways. I have a friend, and she won't mind me saying this. She's in her 30s. She didn't know how to pare an apple until last year, which like I feel like for a lot of New Yorkers who never cook and we just get takeout and delivery and stuff, that may actually not be an anomaly. So
what is
like
paring an apple?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what that means either.
I suddenly.
Wow. So I should start my own Instagram live cooking video for my coworkers.
Pears and apples are 2 different kinds of fruit.
Slicing it up, very funny. Slicing it up and peeling the skin off. Slicing it into wedges and taking the skin off.
Got it.
Cutting.
So the instructional
and peeling.
Okay, and up next, a class on cooking lingo.
That'll be your post tomorrow morning. How to pare an apple. We could go live on this. Another thought I've had is whether or not, if you're a startup in the kitchen tech space or just generally, you're not necessarily someone who has an obvious product that would be something you could plug into the ecosystem that someone who's suffering from COVID could use. If you're just like someone who's creating like a cooking tech product, should you launch your product now and during a crisis? Like that's an interesting conversation to have. I've been thinking about a post on that, but a company that kind of can plug themselves into kind of the new norm is a company called Anycart, which you wrote about, Chris. They're basically a shoppable recipe platform. Because if you are eating more at home and you wanted to teach yourself to cook, they allow you basically to make a meal kit on demand and then order it from like a Whole Foods. Tell us a little bit about their launch and what they do.
Yeah, so I think you kind of hit a nail on the head there which is we're in the midst of this global crisis, and you've been in a startup, you've been chugging along, right? And you had this launch date forever, and suddenly you find yourself in the middle of a pandemic, and you're like, oh, well, what do we do? Then you got 2 choices, and so Anycart launched in the U.S. Actually, I think they had been up in other places, but yeah, it's a shoppable recipe site. So instead of going on to Safeway.com or Walmart.com or wherever and picking out, I need milk, I need cheese, I need blah 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 blah, it'll be like, hey, this is chicken tikka masala or whatever, and then you just click the button, and it and the store that's nearest you that delivers or does pickup, and it puts all the ingredients for that particular recipe automatically into your checkout cart there. So, it's something, we wrote a lot about shoppable recipes like 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then I felt like things quieted down. I don't know, Mike, I don't know if you have any insight to that because you've been following it for a long time.
It does seem like that cooled off a little bit, but I still think the idea isn't necessarily a bad one. I think like this idea of virtual meal kits is something that could survive if like you're someone who's ultimately going to order groceries online and you want to make a certain meal on a certain day of the week. Why wouldn't you just order around the recipe? And I think that is what these platforms allow you to do. So I still think it has some value.
Well, especially now too, if you consider like people stuck at home, they're burning through everything they normally eat. I mean, Catherine's roommate is eating packets. It sounds like he doesn't even cook the macaroni and cheese. He's just eating the packets.
Raw. He doesn't know.
And so it's an easy way to I know my wife wasn't the only one. She was rating the Bon Appetit magazine over the weekend, and we made some brownies based on that. And then I looked on Facebook, and friends were making the date cinnamon rolls or whatever, right? Like the Bon Appetit magazine for this month seemed to have gotten a lot of action instead of just sitting on a coffee table somewhere. So, I think that it's super helpful too. It's just like, oh, this looks interesting, and I can just click a button and I don't have to worry about it, right? Like it's just going to dump it all in there. The only problem is right now in particular is that if you look, so in my particular store, this is going to vary place to place, right? But I can't get a Safeway delivery. I can't even schedule one for anything earlier than a week out. And it won't even let me go past like April 5th. And all the delivery slots are full. So if I'm like, oh, this hummus and chicken thigh recipe looks really good. It looks good today, but 7 days from now when it arrives, I'm going to be like, oh, right. I guess I still want it. I mean, yeah, that's a high class problem in a world where, food is taking on new importance. And it's just one more thing to, the inspiration. There's part of the promise of shoppable recipes was the connection of inspiration and action. So you could in the morning go like, oh, this looks really good. Or if you're at work, go like, oh, this is really good. Yeah. You click a button and then all the ingredients are waiting for you when you got home, right? Because of a 2-hour delivery window. Then that's you really narrow that gap between the two. But if as you extend that out, then there is more of a disconnect between the two.
We're still seeing that demand for the assisted cooking and getting more inspiration, like with meal kits have been doing a lot better recently, especially people at Blue Apron, Purple Carrot, whatever, they're doing better because people want this sort of like being told what to cook as well, I think, to an extent. And there's the same issue that you noted, Chris, where, okay, you order these 3 meals and then maybe next week you don't actually want them. But I wonder if like Blue Apron was trying to fight that, but they did a same day delivery. I don't know if they're still able to do that. Maybe not because things are trickier. But I think there's also just people are willing to sacrifice some of the inspiration and like pickiness for the fact that they don't have to go anywhere and they can just get everything delivered and not be like, oh no, I forgot the celery. Like I can't go to the store and get it, or I don't want to. Okay. Yeah. Like having it all prepackaged. I think right now people are willing to sacrifice maybe a little bit of feeling locked in for the absolute convenience and not having to go outside. But will that continue after this is over?
The one I haven't heard from yet is Home Chef. I know, Purple Carrot and Blue Apron have talked, but Home Chef is owned by Kroger, which seemed like it would be like you talk about just having all the pieces in place to be able to facilitate possibly same day delivery again, depending on where you're at, but having all of the ingredients ready to go and shipping it out. I would be interested to see what they have to say about that.
Maybe by the fact that they're owned by Kroger, who is basically a frontline company dealing with the COVID crisis, they probably have other priorities. But I definitely think there's a huge value shift and priority shift in times of crisis. This, I reminisce about the pre-COVID days when I would write about how Amazon meal kits needed to be delivered that day. So,
but now you just want ago.
But now you just want your food delivered. Who knows what happens a couple weeks from now, or maybe next year if things go back to normal, it'll be something interesting to watch. I definitely think it is a struggle for startups launching new products. But one company that has launched a new product that I actually think fits really well into today's crisis kind of world is GoSun. So I wrote about GoSun launching their new portable water filtration system. they fit well into this like new kind of aesthetic where people are basically ordering stuff to survive. So they are kind of the go-to kitchen company for like the doomsday prepper, essentially.
Yeah, they're leaning into the prepper.
They're leaning into the prepper world. They basically they historically have made solar ovens. They got in last year into cutlery and like a chiller. And their latest product is a water filtration system. So if you really want to go full doomsday prepper and want a shower, they actually have a water filtration system that also has a shower accessory. So, and they're launching right now. They're launching that product. Then they hope to ship in May. So I think it's interesting. Some companies are actually well positioned to benefit from kind of this new reality.
Yeah, I'm curious about the GoSun thing. One, when we say solar oven, like literally it is a parabolic mirror that uses sunlight.
Yeah.
Focuses it to heat your food. Like there's no electricity. It'll charge batteries, but I'm getting started anyway. But you can put it on top of a mountain. And as long as you have direct sunlight, then you can, blast your food with solar radiation and cook it up. But they didn't say a whole lot about how their water filtration works. I mean, maybe I just didn't read deep enough.
It's early, so I don't think they have all the specs out there. I mean, they do launch it. They are launching it with like a small solar panel, and they also have USB connectivity. So if you have an alternative power source, you can power through USB. If you're out there in your car, out in the woods, and you want to power it using your car, you can do that. But yeah, it's still fairly early on. What was interesting is they actually have some accessories like a sink, like I said, a shower. So like this could potentially be like your water system. If you're like by a lake or whatever, using like dirty water, like from a puddle, whatever, if things get really grim, they're the ones that can help you.
Well, that's what I wondered. It'll strain out viruses and bacteria. And I'm like, well, okay, but how do you do that? Like, I need a little more information about the process you're going through. And it's not just your word on that, because look, things go that south and I'm drinking puddle water. I'm going to want to make sure,
It is an interesting time for them. They actually are also raising funds. And so they actually put themselves at a $14 million valuation. They did $1.5 million in revenue last year. And I would actually expect, unlike a lot of companies, that might actually go up this year. So maybe they are a company for this time. But yeah, as far as a new product, Chris, I think we need more information before I would order it. But I think it makes more sense that they are adding to the portfolio.
Well, which would you get first, the water filtration or your spin coffee maker?
If things get really grim and go kind of like, if they go Walking Dead, kind of post-apocalyptic, I'd want the water filter. But if it's normal times, I have a house, I'd want my coffee maker.
All right. Well, which one do you think you'd get first?
Coffee maker. Jen, you put together a list of some restaurant tech deals. Companies are basically stepping up to the plate to help out. I don't know if there are a few you want to mention before we kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, there's a ton of them that are just waiving fees, reducing fees. I will say, notably, a company called Allset announced today that they just raised, I think it was $8.25 million Series B round. They're an interesting story because they were an app where you basically said, hey, I don't have much time, but I really want to eat at Cracker Barrel right now.
How much are they paying you? How much are they paying you?
Delicious homespun food for every house.
Yeah. So with Allset, I can quickly order ahead, pay for it, and tell them when I'm going to show up at the restaurant, and they'll have my food ready, and I can just eat it in the dining room and go. Well, that doesn't work right now because the dining room's not open. But last year, Allset also added takeout. So all of a sudden, they're able to really, like the takeout space, I guess we're coming full circle here because it is Great American Takeout Day.
Hashtag.
It's not a super saturated market the way delivery is yet. So weirdly, I think Allset's kind of pivoted really quickly into this takeout centric piece of very simple restaurant tech that businesses can use to just offer customers a faster, better, more streamlined experience to pick up their food. And they're waiving commission fees right now.
One of the things I always think of is you have to be careful if you're a restaurant tech company. I think it's a delicate balance because a lot of these guys want to get the word out. Mm-hmm. They want to tell people about their services, but you don't necessarily want to make it seem as if you're taking advantage of a crisis. The old political saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. I think that can be careful when you're product marketing. That's a delicate situation when you're product marketing. But there are a lot of companies actually doing really interesting stuff right now that are actually helping out.
Yeah. I mean, I think definitely right now, based on the number of pitches even I'm seeing, yeah, there are absolutely some people that are, well, it seems like they're taking a little bit of advantage of the situation. But to your point, I have spoken to tons of restaurant tech companies that are saying we just want to help, and really based on their actions, like they're walking the walk, so to speak. Like they really are, this is like an unprecedented situation in the restaurant industry. And it really is nice to see people from all aspects of the industry coming together and just trying to help these places stay in business.
Well, I want to thank you guys for getting on. This has been a lot of fun. We actually had some audience people listening. Hey, everyone, thank you for joining. This is an experiment we're trying out. We will have this podcast, I think, live tomorrow morning out on the feeds. But thanks, guys, for getting together.
Yeah, always fun.
All right.
Good to see you all.
Guys. All right, guys, we'll talk to you next week. Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.